2010 was a massive year. I'll never forget being at the grand final and going and seeing a draw and just seeing the players slumped on the ground. So what a grand final this was. Two heavyweights, Collingwood and St Kilda, had great years. There's Nick Maxwell. So 7 minutes to go. The scores become level. So Nick Riewoldt thought he had his team in front. Then the Goddard, Specky, who would forget that one? One of the great grand final marks. If only they'd gone on and won that game. And then Clokey puts the Magpies in front there with not long to go, and then this bounce of the ball. Cruel this was for Stephen Milne. If only that ball bounced in another direction, St Kilda go on and win that grand final. And watch the siren go, and the players slump. Now, they were exhausted, St Kilda. Collingwood recovered better, and you go on to the next grand final. A week later, we all packed back into the MCG, and it was the Magpies who went on and won by 56 points. Scotty Pendlebury would go on and win the Norm Smith medal. Look at that.
There it is.
Yeah. I think Dennis Committee said he snuck up like a librarian there. He saw, and Nick Riewoldt, it's a hard one for him to watch.
As early as that was in the game, it set the tone.
Oh, it did. It did. And then you could just see things just started happening for Collingwood. I think, was it Prestige Como? Did he pull out?
Yeah.
And,
for the sake of the team.
For the sake of the team, yeah. And then Collingwood become premiers, so they were an awesome side around that period. And
I see they've got a pub function coming up with Mick Malthouse and Maxwell and Tony Shaw and Lee Matthews. It's not a plug for the night, by the way, but it's not a bad foursome, is it?
Oh, huge. And mark and goal of the year. We forget Liam Jara, just how talented Liam is. And this was a ripper mark. The late, great Spud Frawl. He's just laughing in the background. He loved that mark, did Spud, and against Port Adelaide there. Just a ripper grab. He was so talented. Unfortunately, didn't play more footy. And who will forget this one? Buddy Franklin, MCG. Carl Hilco wants to forget it, unfortunately. But let's remember Buddy Franklin more than Hooksy. This is just... That night, look at the scoreline. They're down by, 6 points, and Buddy kicks that goal. Just a freakish player in his prime of his career.
Yeah, well, you talk about freakish players in the prime of their career. I mean, not that we needed reminding, but it was the year that this man, Chris Judd, reinforced the belief of many that he's one of the true greats of the game with his second Brownlow medal, and he did it with 30 votes, 4 clear of Gary Ablett Jr. And, I mean, it was a remarkable year. I mean, to average 26 disposals throughout the year says a lot about him, doesn't it? So that's Chris Judd, a worthy winner of 1 Brownlow and an even more worthy winner of 2.
And polled well in several other Brownlows too, didn't he? Brendan Fevola was traded in this season to the Brisbane Lions after his career at Carlton came to a really unfortunate end. And for the first 4 weeks of that year, he and Jonathan Brown lit up that stadium. They lit up the club. It obviously went haywire for a number of reasons after that. He did finish the year, though, with 48 goals from the 17 he played. There's still an element of what could have been had he been able to stay on track and complete and ultimately cash in on the extraordinary talent that he did have. But
how long did he stay? How long was he there for?
Just the 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
I'm glad you show highlights of that because, like, he's the funny man on radio these days, etc. And you forget just how good he was. Like, he was
unbelievable.
He was completely unbelievable.
He might have left 400, 500 goals in the tank, mightn't he? The way
and I say that because Fev and Alex watch the show religiously every Sunday. So there you go, Fev.
Good man, Fev.
He's ripper. A big year for the coaches, as it often is, but some of the biggest names actually lost their jobs as coach. This was a Friday morning. We got a group email. They said, get to the club now. They sacked him on that morning. We played that night. Mark Williams, there's Bomber Thompson. His time at the Cats finished off, and then Chris Scott took over. Paul Roos handed it over to John Longmire, and then there was Matty Knights as well, who lost his job at the Bombers, Llordo. So a big year, as it often is for some of the game's biggest coaches.
Take you back to round 13, and it was the Saints up against the Cats. Stevie J and Stevie Baker just went toe-to-toe all night, and it got violent, and they threw a lot of punches, and there's probably a lot we didn't see on camera, but Stevie Baker received 9 weeks for 3 incidents, and Stevie Johnson got 3 weeks for 2 separate incidents, and it just went all night, and it was must-viewing. We don't see it a lot anymore, and probably with good reason, but when you look back and you talk to those 2 guys, I mean, they were just in the moment, and it was must-viewing.
Hey, Brownie, I'll never forget that one. And I'll never forget, I wouldn't have remembered this, though, this moment. So this is Hawthorn v Richmond, and it was round 8 of the 2010 season. They say that tackle saved Alistair Clarkson's career. So Clarko was 1 win and 7 losses going into this round 8 game. And they say that tackle of Mitchell turned around, got them the win. They finished the season quite well. And Clarkson's hung on to win, obviously, many more premierships.
Well, what a year, 2010. Next week, of course, 2011. Right, we're going to take a break. You are watching this... What?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought you'd ask Kane that because of his maths issues.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to go too hard on him because he gets a bit sensitive, and we have been texting a bit. I don't want to ruin a good moment.